Hello everyone, my name is Benji, and welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program, where today we have a clean slate planet, absolutely nothing here minus the three things that are exporting the titanium, iron, and copper from this world to our other world in the system, which is right over there, which is processing all of our other component parts for our deuterium fuel. And today we are going to be working on deuterium fuel rods. Oh, I forgot to grab my fractionators. Whoopsies! Well, I'll take care of that off camera, it'll be fine. So, deuterium is a hell of a thing. It is super annoying to deal with, and it is no fun. However, thanks to lovely things like gas giants, we can have a little bit of deuterium and a lot of hydrogen coming straight from the source. So, we are going to have an absolute whale of a time on this planet. Deuterium, let me go on ahead and go through this part, can be produced in one of two ways. Number one is with a fractionator. It's the first thing that you unlock in the tech tree. Down here, deuterium fractionation. And then eventually you move into somewhere around here, miniature particle collider. You get your deuterium. So this one is locked behind yellow science, literally locked behind yellow science, whereas this one can be done with just red science and mini fusion with just a little bit of yellow as well for the deuterium fuel. And the deuterium fractionation is a much more efficient recipe in terms of resources. It's a 1-to-1 hydrogen to deuterium process. The issue comes from the fact that it is a 1% chance, meaning for every 100 hydrogen that you put through a deuterium fractionator, you have a 1 in 100 chance. For every 100 hydrogen that you put through a fractionator, you get one, theoretically, deuterium. Usually it's a little more or a little less because that's how probability works. And with our lovely proliferators, that happens to go up a little bit because of the extra 20% or 25% products. So those are very, very nice. We like those a lot. And the other recipe is just the deuterium in the particle collider, the miniature particle collider. However, this is a 10-to-5, a 2-to-1 recipe of hydrogen to deuterium. Highly inefficient, extremely power consumption heavy because the particle colliders take 12 megawatts, whereas the fractionators only use 720 kilowatts, so less than 1 megawatt. You can run like 15 fractionators for the cost of one particle collider, and you theoretically get more deuterium out. The problem with our previous blueprints for deuterium is the fact that they go in a loop around a logic station. And logic stations, as we all know and love, have specific capacities that you can set like so. However, a logic vessel will automatically collect 1,000 of a resource, even if it only needs to get 100 of a resource. Meaning, this will go all the way up to here in its capacity, and then it won't actually allow you to recycle through on the belt the hydrogen. It won't prioritize that, it won't allow that anymore, causing you to have to manually remote storage versus remote demand versus yada yada yada. So we don't want to have to deal with that. But at the same time, we don't want to have an endpoint that is inefficient. So, my theory for what we can do in regards to this is that we can take this logic station here. We can run ourselves power and hydrogen through enough deuterium fractionators to go all the way down from this center all the way down to this one right over here. I'm trying to think of the word, the ray receiver. We can have this centralized on the ray receiver, going from this ray receiver all the way down to this one. How many fractionators is that? 14 fractionators. And then with those 14 fractionators, we can have the hydrogen bypass its way through the rest of the fractionators down to, oh, I don't know, like here or here. And that'll be who knows how many fractionators, a couple hundred. And then whatever is left over after that process, rather than having it feed the entirety of the way back here, what we can do is we can have a couple of priority splitters. These priority splitters will have one priority splitter right after the logic hub here, and make sure that we still have enough room for proliferation as well, because we're going to want to proliferate this. Trust me, we're going to want to proliferate this. And then what we can do is we can have another one down here at our theoretical maximum, which for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to put right here. So just imagine this goes through the deuterium, back, forth, all the way down, and this is at the very end. What we will do is we will have our final output belt from the fractionators coming in. We will have one belt going back to this input splitter right here. So here's the loop that I have in mind. And we'll have it priority splitting so that all of the hydrogen, until it overflows, goes this direction. And then this one will have a priority input here. That way it priority loops the hydrogen through and won't take more from the interstellar logic station until it goes through the fractionator. And then for some reason, if this were to ever soft lock itself and not allow itself to continue to go through, which theoretically should not happen, but on the off chance that it does, we don't want to have to come manually fix this system. We want it to just work on its own. That's where the fail-safe of the miniature particle colliders comes into play. And we'll have an emergency system at the very end where this last hydrogen belt can come through, and whatever leftover hydrogen is left in the system, hence leftover, it'll get turned into deuterium in these. That way the system has 0 chance of backing up, rather than a minuscule chance of backing up, because probability sucks and it's gonna happen. So the failsafe system protects this system from overflowing and protects it from ever stopping. And it keeps relative maximum efficiency for the fractionation, so that we get the most bang for our buck, the most deuterium for our hydrogen, but at the same time we're safeguarded against any sort of problems that occur. That was a word salad. That was 10 minutes of me talking about theory and relative max and relative min. I feel like I'm in one of my classes right now. However, I do need to move some of these. That way we can actually have our wonderful, wonderful proliferation. And I think the way that we're going to do that is we're going to get rid... I don't really want to get rid of that one, because it's kind of nice to have it, in all honesty. What I could do... No, I couldn't do that. Trying to think here how I could fit the proliferation in. I'm thinking maybe if I do it like this, but I don't really like that very much. I don't like how that looks. Yeah, I really don't like how that looks. How do we want to do this? Because another possibility is just moving the logic hub up a couple steps, because the proliferation will be all the way down here. And then what we can do is we can have the hydrogen here, right? And then have our wonderful splitters here and here. And then it'll just be a tiny bit of belt spaghetti with the deuterium coming back down. It'll get to like here and have to do this. And then like this. And then we can have our proliferation right here. And what we can do... where do we have our proliferation come out now, though, is the problem. Ah, I see. Right here. Rotate. Product number 4. Because how I'm going to set this up is hydrogen number 1, deuterium number 2, autosave, warpers, because we're going to need warpers, and then proliferation, like that. We're going to want this, we're going to want infinite, and in all honesty, with the amount of hydrogen that we're going to be getting in here, I'm probably going to jack this to 150 charging. Which also means, yes, this is going to end up having a Dyson sphere, because we're going to need a lot of power, and I'd rather have a bunch of ray receivers instead. Like, look at the pole. The pole is fantastic up here for ray receivers. I'd rather have a ton of ray receivers than artificial stars right now. So, anyway, proliferation comes out the center, and then out to the sides, just like that. It'll wrap itself through all of the fractionators the whole way down. Just proof of concepting right now. And then obviously the deuterium is going to come out the fronts. And it'll probably end up getting to the end and going up in some regard, until it gets to a centralized location, such as this. And then it'll go over and down like that. And that'll protect. And then sadly, that won't fit there. But that also won't fit there, so yep, that makes sense. And then I need to think about power before I actually start blueprinting this. Because, lo and behold, power is a pain in the butt. Now, I could do that, and I could lose a tile, or I could do this, and then have holes. And I think I like the idea of having holes better. So, like, have a hole there. I wonder if I can get a belt past this, though, because otherwise it's not even gonna matter. Unless I just do this, entirely possible. And then I just have to make sure that it'll still fit on either side. Yep, just like that. And then we'll have the next set of these up here. So that one will be the next hole. It was 1, 2, and then a hole. And then up here, we'll have our next set of holes. And then up at the end, we will have our failsafe. And, whoa, what happened? It wasn't even. It's gross. Because there's one extra on this side. Is perfectly fine. There. So I'm going to grab my fractionators from the other planet in the system, right here. This will be the first system to receive a Dyson sphere from our finalized Dyson sphere production hub, which we are probably going to get to next episode, actually. Well, no, we might be able to get to it this episode. We're only at 15 minutes after all my blabbering. I'm really trying hard to fix my bad habit of not keeping myself under a half hour. I'm trying to fix that. So hopefully this video will be under a half hour. I'm going to build all of the fractionator blueprints. They are going to be in the description, and I will run through them once again at the end once they're all designed. But for now, I'm just going to get to it, and I will bring you guys in later. It is done. It is done, and I couldn't be happier with this design. It looks so good. The symmetry is fantastic. I can put two systems directly next to each other, like a system here, a system here. It's perfect. It is so perfect. I just want it to work properly. So over here we have our warpers and our proliferator Mark IIs both coming in perfectly nice and tidy. And they are set to local supply. They should be, at least. I am actually going to go check. Yes, they are both set to local supply, which means this can be set to local demand, local demand. That way we don't use up all of these guys. And then we can do local storage, remote demand, and then local and remote supply. Now, there is the local gas giant, so it's not like they're going to be completely and entirely limited to only using warpers right now. There's this guy literally right here. But there are also 4 more all throughout my galaxy, mostly in this quadrant here, of gas giants that have been tapped. So now what I can do is I can grab this lovely, lovely blueprint right here and do deuterium processing. I had my caps lock for some reason. I don't know when that happened. Wonderful. I spoke deuterium wrong. Why is there an A in there? There needs to not be an A in there. Deuterium processing. Fantastic. There is a theoretical output of 60 per second. Realistic expectation of roughly 45. And min of roughly probably 30, I would say, is the minimum of it. Because it is 250 fractionators with Mark III proliferation request, 125 per 30 belt, and then obviously we do have our end things over here. We're already dying for power, by the way. Like, literally, we are already dying for power. I think this system alone is as much power as we're producing, so that's going to have to be something that I fix. But we also need 200 deuterium per second for our project. Now, if that's not a lot of deuterium, I don't really know what is. So, in all honesty, we are just gonna need so many of these systems. It's kinda sad how many of these systems that we need. So I think it's like a minimum. Like, if we take that theoretical maximum and assume that every single one of these produces the theoretical maximum, we're gonna need like 4 or 5 sets of these. And if we take it at the theoretical minimum, obviously we're gonna need even more. So yeah, to say that we need a lot of systems is to say that we absolutely need a lot of systems. So I'm just gonna get to work on filling out our power a little bit more on this planet, and then placing down some systems, and I will bring you wonderful folks back in. Did I separate it by 3? Huh, that's weird. That side worked better than the other side. Anyway, I'm just going to keep troubleshooting with this, and eventually I will bring you wonderful people back in to see the finished product. And hopefully we have enough power. If we don't have enough power, I can request some antimatter fuel, because that is our next project, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this episode, because it looks like we're not going to have enough time to actually get into it like I was kind of hoping. But yeah, I'll be back soon. And thus completes the deuterium processing. And a really cool screenshot too, by the way. This is probably gonna, some version of this is gonna be the thumbnail, because look at all of those satellite distribution systems. Holy cow, it's insane. So I did some math, and each of these systems is like 500 something megawatts at maximum consumption of power, which means this entire planet at maximum consumption of power is going to be a little over 2 gigawatts. So I put some more ray receivers down. Obviously, that means that this is suffering, but this will get itself a Dyson sphere and it'll be fine. Got a bunch of stuff at both of the poles. I upgraded the planetary ring, and yeah, it's great. But it's time to move on to the final step of this project and the final steps overall, which are the deuterium fuel, and then the actual Dyson sphere components, and the Dyson sphere blueprint itself. So we've got our titanium alloy and our supermagnetic rings coming in from the other planet. We have all of our supermagnetic rings and titanium alloy that will be requested here, as well as our deuterium, which is going to be requested here. And we are also going to put ourselves some warpers. That way, logic vessels can get to and from the gas giants, like this one, that have deuterium in them. And we set that to 10,000 because we're going to need a bunch. By the way, in order to get how many deuterium fuel rods that we need, which I actually got rid of my notes, and I shouldn't have gotten rid of my notes, that was stupid of me to do. I think it's 20 deuterium fuel rods per second. So this will make 10 deuterium fuel rods per second. This is a system of 40 machines. We need 80 machines. We have our deuterium coming out on these two because one belt can supply 16 machines rather than a full 20. So we have the same system that we did before with the frame material. I literally just pasted the frame material blueprint and then, you know, changed the recipes. But now we get to see local demand, local demand. What's the problem? What's the problem? Oh, local supply, local supply. There we go, that's better. Wait, what? What? Plus 500? What? Oh, okay, it lagged, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. And then remote demand, which will prove that yes, we do have deuterium. And boom, that also proves that we have deuterium. And then we will local supply this. Also, this needs to be this. And then local demand over here. No remote supply here, because this will be remote supplying and taking the load off of these logic vessels, which have to travel to and from different gas giants. So, now we grab this blueprint and we paste it down just like this. And then we'll have to obviously supply this as well. But you can see all of the machine. Wait. Not all of the machines are getting deuterium. Why not? Is it just an overflow issue? Yes, it's just an overflow issue. It had to overflow first. That makes sense. That is acceptable. Also, I figured out the button for the FPS. It's Shift F12 for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it is Shift F12. So there we go. We have our deuterium fuel rods being produced. Our deuterium is obviously doing fantastic. It's hovering in this 8,000 region. All of these are obviously now operating, thankfully. And it looks like they are doing good as well, which is fantastic news to see. We'd love to see the hydrogen flowing. We love to see these systems actually operating. It makes my heart very, very happy. Also, I ran out of belts while I was working on this project, so I made this little thing. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it again. Maybe in the future, but I needed more belts, so I made more belts. And we can see there is our deuterium fuel. So our next stop is going to be back at the quantum chips / Dyson components. Specifically, we're going back to the Dyson components sector, and we are going to make our Dyson sphere parts. Make sure this is all set. Everything should be good, and I will see you guys momentarily after the warp. Why did my pause button not? That's odd. Oh well. And past Benji was so kind. He was so kind. Look, he made everything's ready. Everything's ready for me. I just need to do this and keep this at I'm at words. Words are hard. They're very difficult. But look, past Benji. Look at what past Benji did. It's amazing. Oh my gosh. And then I can hit remote supply, remote demand, and look, we're getting some. We're probably getting some from back home too, which is actually a problem I'll have to go fix. And then local demand. Holy cow, exceed a total energy consumption of 1 picojoule. That's a lot. That's a lot. Also, I just got an email. I thought it was work calling me off for tonight. It was possible, but it was not likely. That's sad. I am going to jack this power consumption, by the way, just so that it can request more. And then the glory of this is the fact that we only need, I just had it up, we only need 20 machines, which means that we can do just 10 machines on either side and have this be absolutely perfect. And I am so excited to be putting the finishing touches on this, but I, for the sake of time, am gonna have to show you guys what that looks like later. Ooh, also. Get rid of this. Put one more. We're proliferating these, because these input materials are super expensive. And I guess by extension, I'm also gonna get rid of that. That way I can have this, remote demand, local storage. That way I can have this guilt-free request that for me. And then obviously proliferate, get rid of that, proliferate all of these belts with this. So yeah, I'm gonna set this up. You've seen it a billion times at this point, so I'm gonna set this up, and then we will design a blueprint with our actual Dyson Sphere rocket silos. I'm so excited for that. And I will show you guys what the launching schematic is gonna look like momentarily. And now, with that done and finally working, and an autosave perfectly ruining my timing, we can finally begin with the blueprint. So, obviously, we're going to need a couple of things. We're going to need small carrier rockets, number one. Then, we're also going to need solar sails. And here is how we're going to do this. We are going to do the launching silos first and foremost. And I'm going to try to find a position not quite here, but also not there. I want to find a position where I can perfectly have one here, and then one here, and then one splitting, which it looks like that's not going to be possible. Unless I do it here, which is not possible. I would have to do that here. And obviously that's going to cause its own issues with the hitboxes if I decide to try to do that. And that does not take it too far. Yeah, see, that collides the hitboxes. But if I do it like this, then there's no problem. See? It's perfect. Just like that. Now, that is only 8 of these launchers. However, what I can do as well is have a little bit mirroring that. So, essentially, get rid of this one. No, I'd rather have it. I'd rather have the belt weaving a little bit than get rid of one of these. So, have the carrier rockets, and then have it come out like this. Yeah, and then I guess we can have it go to this side. And we are going to need this, specifically because of how large the hitbox is on these guys. I do need to actually bring that out. And one of my main complaints about these things is the fact that I can't just attach a belt through it like the fractionators. I actually have to do that right there in order to get this to work properly. However, the good news is that I should be able to split these. Yeah, I can split these in between each one like that. And that'll start to look cool. And then what I will do is mirror this right here. I guess there maybe might not be a bad spot. And then see if I can't get it directly in line here. Ah, I see what's happening. Because of the fact that it's one down, it won't let me do that. Versus if I do it like this, it will. Wondrous, wondrous, wondrous. I'll save you guys the pain of having to watch me do this a whole bunch of times. So instead of continuing with that, what I'm gonna do, first of all, is find a different position for this so that it actually covers it. And then, since that's gonna go around that side like that, what we can do with this one is bring out the sails like so. Have it follow very closely the same path until it hits down here. Then we grab our EM rail ejectors, and if all goes according to plan, we can run a belt behind like this with inserters going in, and then we can simply maneuver this until it's kind. Or maybe not. I'll mess around with the spacing and then showcase the final result at the end of the video. So for now, enjoy! And ladies and gentlemen, we have quite possibly one of my favorite blueprint designs I have ever made in my life. This thing looks fantastic. It looks great. It looks amazing. Look at this thing. It's what? 16 of the small carrier rocket silos. The production that I've built here can produce enough to run 60 silos, so roughly 3 of these systems simultaneously, in addition to having EM rail ejectors so that we can also have our path corrected and get solar sails into a Dyson sphere. Now the issue is the fact that there's so much power demand that I'm not able to supply enough power to this planet. And every single one of these is overdrawing power, which means we need a Dyson sphere here. Now, I'm only going to do a tiny one. I'm probably going to do, like, the minimum amount of radius possible. Like, I'm going to do the smallest radius that I can, create both of these down at 0. And I'll just make like a quick design off camera for that. The main thing I want to highlight is this system. And while I can't exactly give you guys the showing it actually working until I design a Dyson sphere, and I don't really have time for that this episode, you will see it working next episode when we delve into our next project. Which, first of all, look at all of the machines going back and forth, all of the copper and iron coming from the ice field to the smelting hub, and then everything from the smelting hub going to and from. Look at just the highway and everything warping in and out. Like, look at my solar system. This is quite fantastic. That's our spiniform. Looks like we've got a couple running back and forth to different galaxies for our optical grading crystals and for our lovely gas giants. And spiniform, apparently. But this is fantastic. This is fantastic to see everything working perfectly. So, as our last background, obviously, small carrier rockets go into the silos, solar sails come out and go into these, which go into different orbits, obviously, in order to program the orbit. Actually, what orbit are we propagating for all of these? Orbit number 1. Obviously, in order to actually copy the orbit, you just set 1 as the orbit. It's 3 clicks of the plus button, and then drag, and that sets the orbit for all of them as you drag, which is super duper simple. It doesn't take that long to set up, and honestly, you could do this part of the setup as your drones are building the blueprint. Just an FYI, a little helpful tip. Blueprints, again, are in the description, and should be up to date if future Benji does his job properly. But that is going to be it for now. So, thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. But without further ado, adios, sayonara, au revoir, hasta la vista, das vidania, auf Wiedersehen, ciao, and goodbye. Please have yourselves all a fantastic rest of your day. Get some sleep if you need to. Don't forget to stay hydrated. This video is in the bag, and I will see you guys in the next. Later, y'all.